Ding, ding. Good morning, all. It's 7:30 on the dot, so we're going to start. We do have plenty of egg bites and kombucha and chilled coffee and other healthy stuff for you, and it'll be available afterwards. So I'd like to thank you all for coming. My name is Monty, and my company is sponsoring Tamara today. And I would just like to give you a very brief background on how I met Tamara and why we're doing this. I met Tamara about 5 years ago in the Entrepreneurs Organization here in Brisbane, EO, and she had joined, and within a matter of 2 to 3 years, she'd served on the board and become the Brisbane president of the Entrepreneurs Organization. She can tell you more about that, and there's a lot of other EO members around here today. EO members, hold your hands up. Right, see, there's a lot of them, so if you want to find out about EO, talk to any of them. And then about 2.5 years ago, Tamara was working with 5.4, which is a healthy diet and weight loss program. I'm actually on it and lost 4 kilos. But she was having a problem with Google AdWords, and I was the Google guru, and so as EOers do, we reach out to our fellow EOers and say, can you help me? And I said, yeah, I can help you, Tamara. She'd had an AdWords campaign that had gotten banned, and things weren't showing up, and so I said, well, I can fix that for you. And I did. And one of the things we do when we work with AdWords, and the things that I do, is we insist that people put on Google Analytics so that you can track and be responsible for what you're doing. So we did that with 5.4, and the good news was we were able to see everything that was working, where people were coming from, social media, Google, Bing, everything. It was great. The bad news was my cost of acquisition with AdWords was like 2x what Tamara was doing in the social space. So I wasn't really happy about that. But I did notice that when we were bidding on her branded terms, they were having a really high click-through rate and a really low cost compared to all of our other clients, because my firm's got a couple hundred clients. So I thought, what the hell's going on here? And it didn't make any sense to me. And so I backed off, and then about 6 months later, when Tamara decided to take over the eastern coast of Australia and move down to Sydney and Melbourne and set up distribution and everything else, she said, can you do some SEO? And I said, yeah, we can do some SEO. So we did some search engine optimization for her as well, and the organic traffic just bloomed. And I looked at the analytics, and I thought, we've got other clients we've done SEO for, and it's never been this good. What the hell's going on here? So it was time to actually look at the algorithm and see what Tamara was doing, and she's sneaky. The first thing I realized was she was influencing the algorithm, and the algorithm's got about 200 elements that go into it, and a lot of them are negative, like duplicate content and having bad backlinks, but it was taking signals from her that were really, really powerful and boosting the organic traffic, and again, it was having a better return on investment than what I was doing with AdWords. And then Google all of a sudden, they evolved, and so they started using artificial intelligence. And so they were looking at holistic elements and everything, and I thought, she's manipulating that too. Because all of a sudden, she had multiple content on multiple platforms, and it was impacting how Google's artificial intelligence was ranking this thing. I thought, well, that's pretty impressive. And then, of course, Google never sits still very long, so a subset of their stuff was machine learning. So they were doing a lot of machine learning where they tell the machine, just analyze what's going on and figure out a way to make it better. And she hypnotized that. She hypnotized Google's algorithm. And as a result, AdWords did better, SEO did better, and her social media never changed. It was still the best yielding ROI of any activities they were doing. So that's how I ended up meeting Tamara. That's how I ended up realizing that her soft and fuzzy stuff, which I thought was kind of all nonsense, actually worked. And the algorithm is influenced by what she's doing. So I won't spend any more time. Let her tell you that. So Tamara, my mentor, friend, and Google Jedi.
Thank you, Monty. I'll take fluff as a compliment, I think. Sounded like I was a bit of a wizard then. Any Harry Potter fans? Yeah, or maybe it's too early for that. Thank you for having me today. Oh, great. There's some familiar faces and some new ones. Welcome to the precinct. Has everyone been before? Great place. If you haven't, the ongoing learning events here are amazing, so make sure you put in your email on their website and you'll get access to what events they have coming up. I think there's a female cocktail night tomorrow night, which I might be attending. But basically it's a hub for entrepreneurs and investors like myself. So it's a great buzz of activity. If you're in southeast Queensland and you want to play a big game and you've got a big BHAG, this is the place to be. And if you're in Mackay, that's the second best place to be with split spaces. So today I'm going to be sharing with you this formula. Whilst it sounds like a bit of a crystal ball, it's actually not. It's very strategic. I'm highly commercial. I'm interested in building businesses and exiting them. That's what I enjoy. And it needs to be things that I'm passionate about. So wellness is certainly something that I'm passionate about. So I'm going to be sharing that with you today. But a little bit of background on me for the new people in the room. Firstly, I'm a creative, so I will admit that right now. Very much a right-brainer. It took about 20 years to train the other side of my brain. I started a marketing agency about 20 years ago, showing my age. And I spent 20 years or 15 of that actually working on other people's businesses, so national and international businesses. And of course with the uptake of social media, I jumped straight on that, and that was something that we specialised in, is online acquisition and communities. So I built a lot of people's brands, took them national, global, and in some cases they got quite a healthy exit. Because as an investor, that's certainly something we look at more, is the size of your database, the engagement and all that sort of stuff. So I decided about 5 years ago to turn investor. And what I do as an investor, I'm not a typical finance background, is I take sweat equity in companies and help them grow through social media. So I'm going to be sharing some of those experiences with you. Can I get a bit of a feel for the room of who are product-based businesses versus services-based businesses, just so that I make sure that you all get takeouts today. So services-based businesses, oh, a lot of them, great. And product? Hello, my peeps. All right, so I'm mainly product, about 80-20 split, product to services, but I will make sure that I give you plenty of examples, because I think in a lot of these things people go, but it doesn't relate to me because it's services based. All right, so the other thing for the people who know me in the room, you would know that since I turned investor, I've been building a couple of businesses that resulted in those awards that you saw, and they're certainly not my own awards. You only get that through an amazing team, and I have some beautiful people in the room, like my business coach Emily and my VC Holly, and of course Monty, who was my weapon in Google. So I've been building those, and then I recently exited one and did a buyout in another. So my next stage is a wholesale wellness fund. So I'm very passionate about wellness, and I love looking at trends. And one thing that I've noticed is the rise of the wellness and the health food section. Have you been into Coles and Woolworths and that health food section that costs you like $4 for a packet of 3 protein balls is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger? That space is really expanding in retail. We're becoming very health conscious, and I do travel the world, and I do believe Australians are leading in that. We really get it, and California's like our American copycat. So wellness is trending. There's some acquisitions already happening, especially in the eco-beauty space. So online and social, you've got, your multinationals that aren't attracting the attention. It's all these great indie brands, which you women would know, like Frank Body and Hourglass. And Hourglass just got bought by Unilever for over $200 million. So indie beauty is on the rise, especially online. And what happens in an industry is when you have these multinationals, like your Revlons, your Maybellines, that own the sector, and these indies come and disrupt, they tend to acquire them. So we've seen that with craft beer, for the boys in the room, from beauty to beer. We saw that the craft beer movement was happening, and a lot of those, if you turn them around now, are actually owned by Foster's and whatnot. They actually acquired them. So the same thing's happening in wellness. So I have a small wholesale fund, which is around 5 mil, and I'm going to be working on about 6 to 8 brands in wellness, all Australian. I'm very passionate about Australian businesses, and starting here, but mainly focusing on my channels in America, which have already been opened up and doing quite well. So taking those businesses to Hollywood and, making their brands big there with the volumes and hopefully getting them an exit and even a partial exit so we can make it even bigger. So I love Australian products and I think we nail it when it comes to wellness. So that's a little bit about me. Undiagnosed OCD, obviously, but I do have 2 young kids and stay-at-home dad, but that's another story. All right, let's see if these slides are going to work for me because I've talked too much. So today I just wanted to set what the intention was for you guys because you're probably not going to believe this, but I reckon we could, in under 2 hours a month, we can create enough content to do my strategy. So in all my businesses, that's the wellness one, and that's the mandate. And did you try some of the products? Great. You're feeling healthy and full of energy? Gutsy will kick in about 10 minutes and you'll start dancing. It's my intention. So what we want to do is, we all have small businesses, right? We don't have enough time for all the things that we're meant to do. We're told all the things that we're meant to do. So I'm not going to sit here and give you a very long list. I'm basically going to share with you what I do because I'm a big believer in experience share. And then you guys can decide whether you decide to do that yourself internally or outsource it like I do, basically. So in each of my businesses, we spend about 2 hours a month producing content that's original content for distribution online organically to boost our organic traffic. And that gives us over 200 distributions online, which is massive, for the 2 hours investment of time. Now, why do we do that? We all want to increase our organic traffic, and I will explain to you why that is absolutely crucial over the next 6 to 12 months and into the future. And of course, what does traffic do? It provides us leads, it decreases our cost per acquisition, which Monty was talking about. I'm all about getting that down, and obviously affects the bottom line. So when people look at acquiring my businesses, they look at what is the industry average for a cost per acquisition, and in one case it was over $100 and I was sitting at $24. So to them that's a great strategy and a good business model. All right, so we up for that game? Okay, so why should we care? If you have a look at the bottom circles, this is the important thing. Even though online is changing almost, it seems like every hour you need to do a new update on what's happening online. What's interesting is people's behaviours and human beings haven't changed. What they're still doing is the traffic is coming via organic. So for the people in the room who are services-based businesses, you're on the left, B2B. A whopping 57% of people are still clicking through organic. So do you know the difference? The paid are at the top, the organic are underneath. So that's a lot of traffic if you're not showing up on page 1. And people are very lazy. They're probably going to go to page 1, page 2 at the most to look for organic. So what you want to be doing is making sure you're on page 1, otherwise you're going to be missing out on that much good organic traffic. The other 2 areas are, of course, social media, which I love, which is paid marketing on social channels, and pay-per-click, which of course the genius in the room here is Monty, and he's literally a rocket scientist, by the way. So that's B2B, and B2C is not that different. The pay-per-click is obviously quite high, but organic is still ranking really high in that one as well. So what I like to do as a little bit of a check on myself is the one on the right is actually my averages. So you will see that I'm actually performing, most of my businesses are B2C. My organic click-throughs are outperforming the average click, which is fantastic. And I'm on par with the other 2. So I'd invite you as a bit of a homework to go and log into your Google Analytics, your GA, and have a look at what is the split of your traffic. Because ideally what you want to do is have a similar overlay to what the traffic is or what the behaviours are of the consumers. So obviously that's something that I track quite a bit to maximise my return on investment. So, and again, I'm going to get good at putting in this password. So the other reasons why I think is quite important to consider Google Organic as a strategy is that 4 out of 10 people will actually rely completely on social media as a reference point to whether they purchase. So you have different kinesthetics. Some people like to have a conversation, but less and less people are picking up the phone. I know that when some investors went through my last business, they were petrified because the phones weren't ringing. And I said, no, we're a millennial-based business. Jump online and have a look at how many conversations we're having per hour. And I've got people in Manila sitting there pumping out hundreds and hundreds of conversations an hour, while all my competitors are closed and have TV ads on at night. That's how we won at the game with no capital. So the other important thing is 75% of people will gauge your business online before either picking up the phone or going into your shop. So that's very relevant for you services-based businesses. If you're not coming up as an option, you're not being seen. So whilst a lot of people think that it's not relevant for them, it's very relevant. A friend of mine has a business called What's Next, another fellow EOer. She's been doing this for about 3 years really well. If you want to follow someone who's doing it brilliantly as a services-based business, it's called What's Next, it's Sell What's. And she's a Brisbane-based business. She's just based here, no offices interstate and certainly not globally. But the amount of traffic that she generates from the activity that she does organically online has positioned her as global leaders. They win blogging awards, she gets invited to speak at international conferences, and now 40% of her leads as a social media business, 40% of her business comes via Google Organic, which is massive. And she's been invited to be on TV as the HR expert, so the opportunities in getting this right are quite massive. This is another reason you should probably care, and if you're only doing pay-per-click, then shit, look out. This is what the cost is going to be in the next 6 months. So this is what they're predicting the price for your click-throughs are going to be. So your cost per impression is going to over double, and so is your cost per click. Now, this has a lot to do with the algorithms that have been changed with Facebook. People were complaining about the amount of ads that were showing up in their feed, so they're going to be reducing the amount of ads. But that's just supply and demand. So that means the spots that are left become a bidding war, and obviously you're going to have to spend a lot more money. And what's interesting on the left is that when they surveyed your competitors, so business, small business, this is how much they intend to increase their budget in the next 12 months. So if your budget for last year for your paid advertising online is the same as next year and you're expecting the same outcomes in the next 12 months, it's not going to happen. That's the sort of ratios you're going to get. So unless you've got a money tree and you can double your acquisition, your budget to maintain your acquisition, then we need to get a little bit smarter at what we're doing online. So I actually like to, well, I'm not a gambler by trade. Risk reduction is kind of one of my strategies, but the trifecta is what I like to call it. So I do a mix of all three, paid, owned, and earned. Now, obviously the paid, I love, obviously, social media advertising. Monty, I just outsource all of that to him. He's the genius when it comes to Google. And when it comes to my own, that's where I focus all my time. So the owned media is all the content that you produce for all your channels, and in return that gives you what's called earned media. So earned media is really important because in the middle there, that sweet spot, that is where that traffic comes from. That's that 47% that we're aiming for. So we're just going to focus on that strategy and how easy it is to achieve that if we have the correct data and distribution plan. So everyone knows sales funnel, right? Just wanted to give you an example of something that is common to you in business. That's what my sales funnel looks like. I'm a huge believer in activity equals outcome. And I don't believe that one or the other is the way to go. I believe you actually need to be, unfortunately, bloody doing everything in small business. So you'll see here the black items is what I would consider the most expensive. So it's really important that those things are lean and efficient. And while I say that is that's your paid advertising online, for those of you who are in products, influencers cost quite a bit of money. Which I tend to, just a tip, I put them on performance base rather than pay for shout out. And the italic ones are another expensive item. Why would you think that those ones would be expensive? Yeah, labour, it's time. And that costs a lot of money. We've all had a look at our P&L and wages are up there. So having sales teams going to these industry events, that's very expensive. So they're the two ones that are the most expensive, still very relevant, but I prefer the very big net, which is the green ones, which is all the content, all the channels online that we're going to solicit referrals and obviously get our name out there. So when I look at the funnel, once these funnel feeders are in, the most important thing to recognise here is the 90-10 rule. If you've ever seen me speak on sales journeys, I spend a lot of time harking up on that. I call it dating, sex, marriage. You don't ask to get married on the first date. You probably shouldn't ask for sex on the first date either, but maybe that's me. But it's 90% value add and then 10% suggestive sale. So the rest of that, you can afford to be a little bit more direct once they've engaged with you, once they've purchased something, you can obviously go to a 50-50. I've actually got a full presentation on post lead acquisition. So if anyone's interested in seeing that part of the funnel and that process, I'm happy to send you that video. So we're just focusing today on the funnel feeders and how we get those in, but that top part is very important to how we talk to people. So this, if you are awake and you didn't have a gutsy, this is the main thing you need to remember. This is all we talk about in my businesses, is the EAT strategy, which is positioning yourself as the experts, authority, and trusted. So again, not about yourself, it's about how do we add value. So Monty will harp on about this consistently. The content that you produce online must be narrow and not broad, and it needs to be deep in scope. So let's try and think of an example. Have you got a business? Yeah, great. So what do you guys do? Okay, so services-based, but you're producing products. So shop fitting was the business. So an example of a very broad, not 90% value add example would be, we have been shop fitting for 30 years. We're a family-owned business, and we do everything from kitchen fit-outs all the way to office. Very, 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 very broad, very much about me. So what we want to do is something more narrow. So a narrow example, God, you've really picked something that I know nothing about. But a very narrow example would be, you know, how to pick the right, I'll talk about the kitchen, I don't cook, but the right cupboards for your kitchen. What is the difference between this type of finish and this type of finish? And go very, very deep on that topic. And then another time you pick a different thing, you know, whether to do the soft close or the normal close. So they're very deep, focused topics. Does that make sense? As opposed to this is my life story, right? So we want to make sure it's deep. And the other thing is then you can't say that you wouldn't have 100 topics inside your business that you couldn't talk about. The second one is that all the content, I believe, should be leveraged off your existing people. Those people that are costing us a lot of money are the ones that are so passionate about your business that it's like their own. Those are the people who should be producing your content. Do hire a marketing intern who knows nothing about your business and get them to come in and set them up to fail. They need to coordinate the activity and work on how they leverage sales activities and support you in that. They're not meant to know everything about your business. Now, inside your business, I know that we all have experts that could talk on this stuff underwater. They do it every day with our customers, right? They ring up, or potential clients, and they go, tell me the difference between this widget and this widget. What is the difference? Or Ben, it might be for you, okay, I've got an 8-year-old kid who's got so much energy, how do I do a party plan for them? Now, you're not going to crack into, well, we've been party planning for this long and we do anything from girls jumping castles through to laser zone for boys. You get very specific on, this is what the boys like to eat, this is what they leave on the table, forget the sandwiches. And they've got lots of energy, so we put them in teams and we rotate them. And we do this for this many hours, and you can go have a coffee, and you get very specific on the topic. So that's what we want to make sure that we're doing, is leveraging the experts. So this is a workshop. You should be awake. Did everyone get a piece of paper? Sorry, there were no pens. I'm assuming you all have them. Hopefully. So what I want you to do now is, because I want you to go back and start thinking about how you can apply the strategy straight away. I want you to write down some people in your business and identify some people in your business that are experts in something. Not mediocre at everything, people who are really passionate about certain things in your business. So if you can, how many did I pick there? 5. Oh, you only got 5. Of the room, more than that? It's like speed dating today, it's quick. Yeah. Yeah, so write down 5 people that you know in your business are very passionate and experts at something. And they can also be subcontractors, people that you bring in as experts. So for people who might have, say, a law firm or an accounting firm, it might be a specific topic that they're really good at. So it might be that they specialise in litigation versus family law versus whatever. So write down those people that are experts. Okay. And here we go again. So what we're going to do next is, based on those 5 people, think about some topics that add value to your customers that they could speak on. Now, all they need to be able to do is talk for 2 to 3 minutes on a phone interview and ask about, how many questions do you ask normally, Monty? I think he asks about 5 questions, max. Great. Thanks, Em. This is one of my superstars I was talking about. Been my coach for about 7 years, I think. She's been putting up with me. So, let's start thinking about some topics that they could talk on. And seriously, I usually do about out. I have a 6-month calendar, it's that easy. Sometimes I just ask them, what are you passionate about? What would you like to talk about in this business? Or what is the question that you get asked all the time? A great insight to what you should be talking about would be to have a look at your social media and the questions that people are posting. Because you'd be surprised how common sense isn't so common. There's some things in your business that you just know without thinking about that we really should be talking to our customers about. And then, of course, I told you I was going to harp on about this one. It needs to be 90% value add and 10% suggestive sale. If you start hearing yourself talking about yourself or doing a buy one, get one free, but wait more, this is an offer, rah, 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 then you're not adding value as far as I'm concerned. And I don't believe price war either, because if you add value, you don't need to play that game. Thank you. Awesome. Oh, we get tested. All right, so I'm going to show you what my strategy is, and this is basically all it looks like, and everybody knows this in my businesses. I'm obviously into video because I guess I'm into products. It's very touchy-feely. Beauty, of course, is relevant for videos as well. So I tend to do 4 videos and 4 podcasts. So Monty says all the time he has a face for radio. So for people who aren't interested in being in front of the camera, you'll probably find that most of your employees who are millennials are very happy to be in front of the camera. But for the other people who are more interested in just having a conversation, it's as simple as doing that on the phone. And they can be anywhere in the world to do that. So I can interview people that represent me in LA, across beauty, and that's all captured from here. So basically I produce 4 videos and 4 podcasts. So that's 8 sets of topics, right, that are being produced, and 8 sets of unique content. And then I don't have to do anything else. I basically give it to Monty, who has in-house writers who are ex-journalists, very experienced, again, not written in Manila. These are professional writers, and they listen to those 8 pieces of content and they turn that into an article and a press release. So a professionally written piece of content. And then I also give that to my social media team. Vanessa, you are an in-house marketer for Holly, so you get that content, and then she takes from that what I call social media grabs. So just a paragraph that might be a really important topic, or sometimes some quotes. So there's some really cool quotes that come out of those interviews that can be turned into quotes for social media. And I usually find that I get about 20 grabs of social media content from those 8 pieces on average. So then Monty basically takes those, he has access to all my channels, and he has a distribution plan that basically sets it out so that Google doesn't think we're spamming them. I don't know how he does it, but it's fantastic. So we strategically distribute that content across our channels, and it's all seen as unique events, and that's what Google's interested in. It wants to make sure that you're on adding value all the time and providing constant interaction for your customers. So then, of course, that's why I get ranked so high. Is that correct? Did I explain that right, Monty? I feel like this is your area right now. Oh yeah, I'm so buy into the fake it till you make it. That's my whole strategy, Monty. So one piece of content, all you need to know is that's going to be produced into a video, a podcast, and an article. Now, don't forget, if it's a video, that can easily become a podcast. But are you going to make your marketing manager or your marketing intern sit there and produce all of that? I don't. I get them to focus on how can we do things on the ground to support sales. So he turns it into those things and then he distributes it across the channels. Now, depending on what channels you have, Monty, you've set up a lot of mine for me in the past, but it's really important that you cater for as many kinesthetics as possible. Some people like video, some people like podcasts, some people like reading. So we need to cater for all of that. So that's one piece of content and how far that's been distributed. And then you're going to do the other 2 or 3. Now, I find that most of my team members, I won't say staff because that's a stick, most of my team members can get up to 4 interviews done in half an hour on the phone. So I can get 4 done in an hour or 45 minutes in video. So it's not a lot of time to produce this content. So that's the sort of distribution you're going to get off only 4 bites. Now, depending on if I've got a new brand, like Gutsy is a new product, that obviously we've just launched that. We will be doing about double the amount of strategy. So we'll be doing about 8 pieces per month so that we can get the momentum online building, and we'll do that for about 3 to 6 months until we're on page 1. And obviously supplements is a highly competitive area online, and then we can taper that off. So depending on how aggressive you want to be online and how much you want to be found or how you're performing depends on how much content you need to produce. So more homework for you. What I've found over my 10 years is there's a bit of a cheat list. So this is a list of what I believe the winners are doing online and what the opposite of that looks like. So please, I know I don't have to say this to the EOers in the room, they're always brutally honest with themselves, but please be honest and answer these questions. I want you to rank your business, 1 being poor and 10 being great. I want you to rank your business as to how you think you're performing when it comes to these things. All right? Are we ready to rip the Band-Aid off? Great. So, are we consistently creating high-quality original content on a week and distributing it on a weekly or fortnightly basis? Some of you might be 0. You might not even be doing it, but give yourself a 1. Okay, next one. Our content is repurposed. So the most expensive part about producing content is the time it takes to do it. Don't give it 1 channel. Give it as many legs as you can, as Monty calls it, carpet bomb the shit out of it, right? So are you repurposing this as audio, video, and articles and adding it to everything? So that piece of content can be put on your website. If I go to a website and I see that their blog was last updated 4 months ago, it is one of my pet hates. And you can be added into your EDMs, so whatever your channels are. So are you repurposing and leveraging that content as much as possible? Rate yourself. Okay, is all your content being distributed online in a strategic manner? Do you have a Gantt chart and a plan for how you distribute your content? And we really want this to be at least 3 months out. So, paying for Hootsuite and dumping it all at once is not a strategy. That won't get you ranked very well. Okay, next one. Qualified professionals are engaged to ensure our content is high quality, produced regularly and on time. How many people have it in their job descriptions of their staff to produce content and never get to it because business gets in the way? Oh yeah. So I find I have to have someone dedicated to it. Otherwise, it just does not happen. And to me, it is so crucial because I know what returns I get for it that I refuse to compromise on them getting sucked into the business. So we have marketing interns and marketing managers, or you can outsource that. And to be honest, it's quite competitive to find a marketing grad nowadays. Apparently, the ads this year alone have tripled of people looking for marketing grads. So I would imagine their wage is probably going to be exorbitant as well for grads. All right, next one. Our content is narrow in topic and deep in scope. I love it when I see husbands and wives trying to figure out what their number is. Do you want me to ask a few more questions? Okay, we don't do the hard sell or talk about ourselves, but instead we educate and add value. So are you approaching the customer's needs? Are you addressing that? Not what you think the customer but what you've heard them tell you. Okay, 2 to go. We have an online content and distribution plan that is completed 6 months in advance, including who does what. It actually doesn't take long to do this stuff. I've got a template if anyone wants it. It's just a matter of popping those experts in there and voluntold, as I call it. They're being told they're going to be doing interviews. Yes. Cool. Maybe start a list of all the things I'll have to send you. We take advantage of newsjacking regularly. So do we know what that is? If there's something in the media that's relevant, if we've got an article or could produce an article quite quickly, we can hijack that. So think about your business and when it might be bad press, but you can hijack somebody else's misfortune and you can add some value around how you could have approached that situation. And I do that quite a bit. I'll ring Monty and go, Monty, did you see the news? Quick, we've got to put this out today. He loves it when I do that to him. All right, so how do we score? All right, so let's give you some examples of why you want to give a shit about this stuff and implement it. And trust me, it doesn't take too much time, probably about half a day to get that strategy together. So this is the food company that I was talking about. They were a startup. I got involved after a couple of years. So they'd been in business for a couple of years and got to about 1,000 meals a week. I started my marketing 2 years, and so with the day that I came in, we saw 750% growth in 5 months. That was purely by an online strategy. We had no money whatsoever. We had debt. So I had no other choice but to work on communities. Now, the sorts of conversations we were having here is really differentiating ourselves from our competitors and talking about things like the difference between and why it's important to have a low carb, high protein diet when it comes to weight loss. And then for bodybuilders, we were saying how to build lean muscle. These are the steps. This is what your breakdown of your macronutrients should be. Very specific topics that were targeted to our audience. And we pretty much went crazy online. Now, this was seen as huge value to the people who were interested in gym junkies and millennials, that they were sharing the shit out of this stuff and commenting. We would get, 300 or 400 comments within a couple of hours on some of our stuff. And it'd be reshared 300 times. Like, this is the sort of stuff you want to get into. So that's how we saw the growth, and it was completely organic until we could afford to start paying for some. And then obviously then it took off. So that business is one of the examples of under $500,000 to over 10 mil in less than 2 years with no capital. So, and completely online. We're now only just starting to explore retail because for those of you who do products, the margins on direct-to-consumer are a lot healthier. So I put this one in because it's an interesting example of faking it till you make it, like we were talking about. So this was a brand new product as well. Came up with the brand positioning in a day strategy. And we decided that we were going to be a different hair care. We're going to be 5-star hippies. And we're going to be all about how to wrap your hair like back in the 1930s and air dry your hair as opposed to frying it. So we put lots of stuff out there. And what was really interesting is that I had a connection in LA and we got into the Oscars gift bags as part of our launch, which month 3 we were a new idea. And next minute there's videos out there of me speaking so people can see what I'm like as a presenter. And we get invited to go on QVC. Does anyone know QVC? The home shopping, you've probably all seen the movie Joy. So we get now 10,000 people apply to go on that show. It's 150 million homes and they do $7 billion revenue. And because we had so much out there, our brand, our messaging, there was so much to talk about because it's half an hour live and they could see all these narrow topics, heaps of them that they went, wow, this could easily be a segment on our show every 6 to 8 weeks where she could talk about something different all the time. Because that was all out there, they'd done their due diligence before they even came to me and said, would you be interested in being on the show? So we're on there every 6 to 8 weeks. What's really interesting is nobody knows who the brand is here in Australia. And in America, when they found out that the brand was only 12 months old, they nearly fell over. because the brand positioning is so strong that it looks like it's an established brand. So that's okay. So don't forget that there's also leverage for opportunities. It's very important. And then geese and wines, got to throw in some wine for breakfast. These guys had pretty much no social media presence, came to me to work on an online strategy. We got, on average, 1.5 million brand exposures on social media every 3 months, which is massive, and 50,000 likes within 12 months on their Facebook page because they had none. But what's really important about this is even though they're not allowed to sell their wine, well, they don't really encourage to sell their wine online direct to consumer, wine in this bracket, which is around the $15 to $20 mark, is consumed within 4 hours of being bought. So remaining top of mind is very relevant. If you're showing up in someone's feed and they're just about to walk into a bottle shop and they have an association with you in the community, because we had lots of fun with this. You know, we made it all about, okay, if you want to have white wine with your steak, just do it. You know, we really made it quite fun, and it was very, very narrow topics. It was great. So they remain top of mind so that when people go into the shop, that increase their sales. And if you have a look at the number one Sauv Blanc in the world, which is based in America, that's their traffic, which is pretty impressive. If they ever wanted to sell that, that would definitely help. So I'm currently studying at the Entrepreneurs Masters program at MIT in Boston. And this was an interesting thing that they brought up. I mean, most of the businesses there are averaging around 50 mil turnover, but I wanted to put this in because I had one of those popcorn moments where I went, my goodness, that is exactly my hockey stick of how I have won at the game on social and online. So it's really about you guys just getting to that red point. After that, you know, you've got the money and the budget to get all sorts of experts in your business, but having a documented strategy, publishing content to all your primary channels and making sure it's distributed well are the three things that you need to do. As soon as you start doing that, real things really take off, and I've got people here who've been in my forum and they've seen it firsthand how quickly these things can turn once you have those three. So I thought that was an interesting diagram. Obviously, once you get over 10 mil, all those ones above that start to become really relevant, and you start to drill down into the micro of the data, which I usually just ask my rocket scientists, seeing my brain is creative. So. All right, so a little bit of a checklist so that we know what we're going to go and implement or at least stop doing. So we're going to make sure that we do not set our marketers up to fail. If I hear another person say that marketing didn't work for me, I would say you didn't work for the marketer. If you don't give them a good plan, don't set them up to fail. You know, they can't be everything. They can't come in and be your video person, your copywriter, your experts on every single topic, your social media IT person, your coder for your website. They cannot be all these things. So please give them the tools that they need so that they can succeed. The second one is and obviously give them a strategy. Produce regular content that's 90% value add, that follows the EAT principle. All right, test. What's EAT stand for? Expert, authority, and trusted. Awesome. Okay, ensure your content is a narrow Q&A, not broad. So this is just a conversation, 3 to 5 questions on average, I think, Monty. So make sure it's very narrow. Give your content legs. Ensure that it's distributed to at least 6 of the top channels. So look at your business and find out where your customers are. If it's a millennial business, Instagram usually beats Facebook. If it's over 40, Facebook's usually the winner. So have a think about it. And in your case, even though you're bringing children, you've got a theme park, so to speak, entertainment park, it's the mums that you're targeting. So just make sure you know exactly who you're targeting for planning all this stuff. Online is ongoing. You have to feed this beast. Your veggie garden dies after a while, so unfortunately this is an ongoing strategy, which is really just Monty's problem, to be honest. Sorry about that. And I'll put this one at the bottom only because I'm an investor and these things are really important to me when you're scaling a business, is don't underestimate brand value. You have no idea how many investors I speak to and they look so closely at your online reach, your database, your engagement, your acquisition costs online. That is a 10x when we're talking about exiting your business. And recruitment. If you're growing this beast at that sort of rate online, you need to have great people. And like everything, people do due diligence on you even when they're wanting to come and work for you. They will Google the shit out of you. And you need to be seen as the preference over someone else. So attract the right candidates. If you have all that out there, if they can see you, John, talking about physio and you're approachable, and I'd be like, oh, I want to work for him. He's a nice guy. So those sorts of things are really important, and you can show off your team as part of that. So keep those two things in mind. All right, so that's Monty's plans. So you can just do a kickstart. I actually do the premium because I am an online tart. More content, the better. So I'm basically paying $2,000 a month to outsource all of it to him, and he produces everything. All my people need to do is show up for or make themselves available for 2 hours, and then he does all the distribution and the rest of the work. So that gets me about 240 distribution events, unique distribution events that drive my Google traffic and increases my ranking. And on average, if you're not doing something in this space, I would give yourself about 3 months to start seeing some really good traction of activity. Is that about right? And I don't think anyone goes past page 2 nowadays, do they? It's a dog-eat world. We're so impatient. So that's basically it. Have I confused everyone, or was it very clear? Right, great. So I can actually send out all the slides to everyone if that would be helpful. And if there's anything else that you think would be of value, come and see me. I've got the sales funnel, a few other things, a few templates that might be useful. I believe Monty is, because he's just figured out that I finished my earn-out, so in between my trips to the States every 6 weeks, he's blocked out about 5 spots in my calendar for strategy days. So I tend to do strategy days for businesses in marketing. I'm not active in the marketing agency. My sole focus is the wellness fund and my own businesses, but I do love spending time with businesses. So he's blocked out some time. I think you're going to be giving away about 6 of my time, and I'm expensive, people. So I think you're giving away about 6 or something was all I could commit to start with for anyone who jumps on board with you guys. Because at the end of the day, Monty and I, all we care about is you guys winning in business. I'm obsessed with business, so I want to see you guys win and grow. And I have so many examples of how this strategy works so well. So follow what's next. I'll send out the slides to everyone.
Folks, that's it. Thank you very much for coming. We've got lots of more healthy things, gutsy stuff here. Where did Janine go? She didn't come up and talk. Wave your hand. Fire yourself up. We've got some more of the egg bites and that sort of stuff. If you want to talk to myself, my business partner here is Jeff Ferguson. We're happy to talk to you about what we've been doing with Tamara and as well as with Holly. And thank you for your time. Have a great week.